You're watching the East West Football Network. This is Inside the Franchise. We got, we got Walter Stringer, Kendall Whitley, and of course Jerry Martinez. Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
Hey, okay.
Yeah,
Good, good.
Kendall. Man, so real quick, guys, if you didn't get to catch up, make sure you go back onto our feeds. We had a podcast earlier with two-time Super Bowl champ Brian McFadden. Super awesome. I think you guys should definitely tune into that one. But here we're gonna break down the teams right here. Oh, sorry, this side. Whoa, I'm messing up everything. We got the Steelers. We're gonna break down the Steelers and the Colts. We're gonna go inside the franchise. We're gonna see. We're gonna take a look back at the 2020 season, what moves they've made so far, and what we are hearing, what we may think what will happen in the draft. So let's start off with the Steelers. Kendo, what do you think, man? They finished 12-4. Give me their season in a nutshell.
Ooh, man, Steelers. It started out hot, then they kind of on the second half of the season, injuries, turnovers, Big Ben struggling. I mean, it was a big mess down there in Pittsburgh. Started with the Washington football team. They lost that game on Thursday on a Tuesday night, I believe. They lost that game, and it seemed like the season just went downhill from there. They brought back Juju at the last minute this year. I thought he was going to be gone. They re-signed Ray McLeod, the wide receiver. They lost a lot. Bud Dupree, Mike Hilton, Vince Williams. I mean, they lost a few more other players. I think the Steelers. I mean, I think they're trending. They're kind of right in the middle. You look at the division. You got Cincinnati. They're going to be much better. They're going to have a pretty good draft. The Browns, they're coming, and Baltimore's always going to be in the thick of things. So I think, just long story short, I think the Steelers are they're kind of like on the decline a little bit. I think.
So what do you think? Well, I mean, in a nutshell, I think that Kendall hitting a lot of key pieces, but everybody wants to know about the window. I mean, you got Big Ben back, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they got Ben back. They got him on that death sentence 1 year contract, which we already know that the writing's on the wall for Ben. So of course, quarterback has to be a concern, a area of need for the Steelers going into this draft, and not only this draft, but also in free agency. But if you look back on this past Steelers team from this past season, I think they did a really good job of taking advantage of a really soft schedule early. They managed to beat a lot of bad teams, pretty much beat up a lot of bad teams because they were able to inflict their will on them defensively. But at the end of the day, that Steeler team were never really able to run the football. The passing game never really found any type of rhythm whatsoever. I don't know how much of that has to do with Ben missing pretty much the prior season and coming back, and on top of that, Ben being pretty much on the decline in his career. But this Steeler team lost a lot, and this is a Steeler team that historically, organization-wise, they're not big on spending money in free agency. They do tend to take care of their own, but I think when you look at the Steelers currently, that defense isn't even going to be next season what we think it can be. A lot of people are hanging their hat on the Steelers being solid. Well, I think they'll be solid defensively because I think T.J. Watt in that front seven and Cam Hayward are just that good. So with that being said, they'll still be able to wreak enough havoc in the front seven and that front four, but that secondary is a mess right now.
Yeah.
And considering the fact that they lost Mike Hilton to Cincinnati, which was a double loss, and they lost Steven Nelson, Hayden, as Kendall mentioned, may get cut. So corner could be an area of need for them. They don't really have enough money for that, for anybody premier to really come in and help them. And considering where they're picking and with considering where they're picking, which is 24th, there's not going to be any elite talent there. I think after the quarterbacks are gone, there's probably going to be a run on wide receivers, and there's going to also be a run on corners. So by the time that 24th pick rolls around, what are they really going to do? I mean, offensive line is still an area need. So it's linebackers. You got a guy like I believe it's Jamin, but there's some guys that they really could go for at that pick. Offensive tackle, I think, could turn out to be the biggest area need, and that area that could actually be filled at 21 without them reaching too far.
So let's take a look at the numbers, right? Because It was a crazy year. They went 11-0. It looked like everybody was already saying, "Oh man, this is the year they're going to go undefeated, win it all." And we can never count out the Steelers. I mean, they're always in contention. When you look at it, like Kendall and yourself said, man, they got hurt. When they got hurt, things just started to get out the window. But when you look at some of these things, the outlining things is their rushing game, their rushing attack finished 32nd in the NFL. That's dead last in the entire league. So obviously they have no running game. And when we saw the success that Big Ben and the Steelers were having, it's when James Conner was actually running just at will, putting up over 150 plus yards and a couple of TDs, right? Almost every week in and week out. So when you look at that, and then let's look at their defense. You just mentioned that back the back
That's a
the
lot.
back end is their weakest, but they actually finished third in their actual pass defense. They actually finished third in the entire NFL. So
Look at the pass rush though, Jerry.
I
didn't,
was
didn't
gonna
I mean
say,
didn't they lead the league in sacks?
yeah, a lot has to go with the pass
Right.
rush, but like you said, there's gonna be some things that they need to address. Offensive line, obviously, it's Alejandro Villanueva and James Conner have not been brought back. The Big Ben restructured his contract, right? They were able to bring back Juju Smith-Schuster,
Running back.
he's been he's one of the favorite. Um, they're gonna need edge outside linebacker to replace Bud Dupree, and then of course running back. Now, if we look at some of these, if we look at some of these mock drafts out there, they have the Steelers selecting a running back. Now, let me ask you this real quick: if the Steelers go for a running back and fail to address any of those top needs right now, would it be insane, or do you see it possible?
I think it's
Walter, go
possible.
for it. And
I
you?
think it's possible for the
It's
simple
possible.
fact that a running back, say for instance, a Najee Harris or a Travis Etienne or a Javante Williams, would give them a building block, a young building block on the offense, an aging offense. Because I mean, at the end of the day, the elephant in the room is Big Ben.
Mhm.
You know, you can actually argue that quarterback may be one of their biggest needs because it wasn't one of their biggest strengths at all last season. It hasn't been over the past 2 or 3 seasons. So I think quarterback at that spot where they're picking, there won't be anyone alive. All the fish will be gone out of the water by the time that pick rolls around. So I don't see them reaching for a guy at 24 quarterback wise. Running back is a very solid possibility unless there becomes a crazy run on running backs. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think quarterback and that one spot right there, running back, is a spot where I would not be surprised if they went running back because it would give them a cornerstone player because they so desperately need it offensively.
So, Kendall, right now, the last time the Steelers selected a running back in the first round of the NFL draft was back in 1982. Do you feel if they select, let's say, a Najee Harris, that would be a good selection, and will that help out the actual Steelers offense get back on track?
I think so. I think Najee or even a Travis Etienne there if he's there. I think either one of those backs would be great for the Steelers this coming season because they need something. I know they still got Benny Snell, and they got McFarland. They're obviously not going to bring back James Conner, so they need some juice back in that backfield.
So this window's closing. This
Yes.
window's closing. It's closing pretty fast, right? So to round out the Steelers in a nutshell, let's say they're able to get two starters at these key positions that we mentioned. Well, I mean, even if we leave running back off the list and we go out, they go offensive lineman and he's a starter, and an outside linebacker and he's a starter. Um, what what do you think? And let's just say they're able to pick up some people that can play cornerback and also running back. What's the ceiling for this team? Whoever wants to go first.
I still believe they're third in that division
Oh,
behind the Browns and of course the Ravens.
wow. So you have the Browns number one, Ravens number two, Steelers number three.
Well, the thing is this: eventually you have to outscore somebody.
It's
Yeah.
true.
You can't just load up on a bunch of defensive players. A defense will keep you alive for
It's
about a
true.
good 3 seasons, 2 or 3 seasons until you got to pay everybody because having an elite defense gets expensive. So nah,
And
not currently.
look at Minka Fitzpatrick's looking to get paid, and he's probably going to get paid very, very nice too.
Well,
Yes.
not only that, look around the rest of that division. You got Lamar Jackson, you got Baker Mayfield, you got Joe Burrow coming back. He showed a lot of promise last season before that injury. So Pittsburgh needs to make a decision. They're beyond the crossroads right now with Big Ben.
Wow, well said, Kendall. What do you think?
I think they're third. I think they're third in the division. I think like what Walter said. I like Baltimore at one. Then you got Cleveland. They're going to be even better. Cleveland might even be one this year because they had a pretty good offseason. They're going to have a pretty good draft. They've had a good draft the last few seasons. The Bengals, I think they're going to come in last. I think the Bengals are about 2 years away from really competing. I think about 2 years away. They need about two more good drafts, two more good off seasons. But I think the Steelers are right there around third in the AFC North.
And for me to go ahead and step forward and say my my prediction, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Steelers fans. I know a lot of Steelers fans actually, believe it or not. I think that the windows is closing very fast. I think that that thing is almost nearly shut. I don't see them going very far. This team needs a lot of rebuilding to do. This team has done a great job as far as finding the wide receivers, and they had been on a run. I mean, look at Chase Claypool. They have a lot of good pieces in place, but man, it's about getting a running game and somebody to protect Big Ben because Big Ben he is on the decline. So let's move along. Right, we had a little hiccup. I don't know how, Walter, Kendall, but we skipped. We had skipped the Steelers, right, and we went straight. we went
Yeah, I
straight
don't get that.
we went straight to the Titans. Went straight to the Seahawks and to the Titans. So next on the list is Colts. They're picking 21st in the draft this year.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and let's talk some Colts football. In a nutshell, the Colts, they finished 10th in offense in the
Mhm.
2020 season, and that's in the entire NFL. They finished eighth in defense. That's entire in the actual NFL. I mean, I'll tell you right now, their biggest weakness is the pass defense. They finished 20th in the NFL in their pass defense. They actually finished 11th in the running game, 11th in their passing game, and they actually finished second against the running game. So their defense were able to shut down the running game, but their pass defense was just letting points getting scored on them. Give us their season in a nutshell. Kendall, go you go. Oh, Walter, you go first on this one.
Colts season in a nutshell.
Yeah, 2020.
A lot of injuries.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of injuries.
Oh yeah.
They managed to do it with a running game, a very solid running game. They got a nice stable of running backs over there in Indianapolis.
And they're getting
And,
in one back.
yep, Marlon Mack, who had a tremendous rookie season a couple seasons ago. Um, Very solid defense, solid head coach, who I still hold him accountable for that playoff game against Buffalo. And they did it with a veteran quarterback. I think that Colts team overachieved where they had, at least for the guy that they had under center. But I will give him the credit. Phillip Rivers did improve as the season went on, and that team, they ran into a better team, I think, in the playoffs against Buffalo. But I think just in general, hopefully they found their guy in Carson Wentz.
Yes.
Hopefully, he'll be reunited with Frank Wright over there in Indianapolis, and things will go according to plan because he has tight ends. We know what that offense is gonna be over there, and we believe he fits right into that offense. He's got a stable of backs. Doesn't have a lot around wide receiver rise. I think Pittman's going to come into his second season. He shows some flashes, and he should be a lot better this season coming up. I think receiver is still a spot for them where they could go in the draft. Also, you're looking at pass rusher, and as Jerry mentioned, always some secondary help because I think the writing's on the wall, and Malik Hooker's probably gone.
Yes.
So give me
And
what was
tight end. Oh yeah, they could always go for a nice Pat Fryer move, Jerry.
your
I'm telling you, there's a big ticket on tight ends who can get out there, catch, and block
Oh
consistently.
yeah, and Rush.
Hmm.
So what was your biggest takeaway from the 2020 season for the Colts, Kendall?
like what I think the injuries, the quarterback position, Phil Rivers, he was kind of up and down for the most part. I still think they need another wide receiver outside of Michael Pittman. They did bring back T.Y. Hilton, so they need to get a little more explosive on offense. The defense wasn't bad. I mean, their ranking wasn't that bad, but they brought back Xavier Rhodes. He was a pretty good. He was a low key good signing for them last year. They re-signed him this year to a 1 year deal. I think you never can have too many pass rushers. So I think a few games at the Colts they kind of came up short. They came up short at the beginning of the season. So I feel the Colts have definitely improved this all season. And then the elephant in the room right now they got Carson Wentz. So hopefully he's going to be the guy that's going to take over this Colts franchise.
So let's take a look at that, right? I mean, for me, in a nutshell, the biggest takeaway I saw was wow, that defense really came together really fast, especially when they traded their number one pick last year for DeForest Buckner from the 49ers. I mean, instantly improved. Even when he was hurt, you could tell that he was a big vital piece to that role that he played in that defense. So, watch out if they can continue to add key pieces to that defense. And then now, like we talked about it, Carson Wentz. I mean, you had Carson Wentz. So when you look at it, Anthony Costanzo and Philip Rivers, they both retired. So there's some needs out there, and the two glaring needs right now are left tackle and cornerback. So when we stop, we look at it. What have they done this offseason?
Nothing.
Yeah,
Let's be honest, man. The Colts have a stranglehold on their wallet right now.
they do.
They really don't have to make too many moves. I think they're a ready to compete team right now. They managed to get their quarterback without budging off of that pick. And hey, a guy like Christian Darrisaw, I think, would be solid for them if he could fall there
Yeah.
at 21.
What do you think, Kendall? What would be a good addition that you
Hey
feel
man,
could be a
let's
solid starter?
how about getting another wide receiver? I mean, you got T.Y. Hilton. He's been banged up the past few years. He's still fast, but he was out of the market for as long as he was for a reason. Then nobody just jumped to go sign him. On the coast, they definitely did. You got Michael Pittman, like Walter said. I think he's going to come into his own in his second year. I think he's going to be at number two. I don't think he has that number one in him right now. But I mean, what about just get your wide receiver? It's another deep wide receiver class. So you can get one in the first or in the second round. So I'll go wide receiver from them.
Wow. Yeah,
Jerry,
I think that's too bold right now with the first round. What were you gonna say? Well,
what do you think about Quincy Roche?
I think I love him as a prospect. I love him. He's not getting that much buzz. Um, I think that he would help out your passing defense, right? Because the faster your edge rushers can get to the quarterback, less time, and that you got what they call coverage sacks or straight up pass rush sacks. So the thing is, when you look at it right now, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. If let's say they go, let's just say let's say they address corner. Who's still there at corner? I mean, maybe names like Greg Newsome. We've heard Eric Stokes,
Yeah.
and let's give Tyson Campbell some love. I mean, these are some
What about
some.
Sean Wade?
At that pick,
Oof,
uh, no, I mean, I think it's gonna if they go corner, it's gonna come down to the type of corner that fits their system.
exactly.
If you look at Xavier Rhodes, they brought Rhodes back. Rhodes really isn't a man corner anymore.
No.
Rhodes is playing a lot of zone now,
Yeah,
so they could go with a zone type of corner. But I think Newsome probably would be the best fit because I think Newsome, once you get past the top 3 or 4 guys, and you can argue if Newsome is in the mix
yeah.
with those top 4 guys, you can honestly argue that. So I think once you get past those guys, and if some people want to include Newsome in that, you still have a guy who can play the run. He can play in the slot. He can man up outside. I didn't even think he was really that big. Like when I very first started taking a look at him, I thought he was a lot smaller than what he was. But he's a very physical corner for his size, and I like that. He's got a lot of dog in him. He's got ball skills. He's proven at the pro day he can run. So I think Newsome would be a very logical pick, and Colts fans will be very happy with that.
So I mean, just to kind of round it off, right? I mean, we're talking about the back end of the draft, obviously picking 21st. I mean, they're not at the later part, which is unfortunate, but I mean, There's also some names out there that are floating potential first round buzz. Trevon Moerig from TCU, and my top
Yeah,
safety man Richie Grant. I mean, the
Gregory Russo also. He's a
right.
name that Russo could go anywhere from top 10 to end of
to
the first round.
yeah, probably even second round. So from what we're hearing, so is it possible? Let's just say this Colts actual team is able to get everything. I mean, they got the quarterback, it seems, right, of the future. Now they add those key pieces that we said, those the outlining positions that they need. Give me your 2021 prediction. I know the schedule hasn't come out, but just give me your prediction. What you think if they can get two at least two solid starters that can contribute to both offense and defense. What is their projection?
I think the Colts can be a deep playoff team, 11, 12 win team, especially in that division. I mean, you got the Titans. They're there, but the Colts kind of had their number for the most part the past few years. Jaguars, they're not going to be competing right now, and the Texans, we already know what they're going to do. So I think the Colts definitely they got a good chance of having a real good season with Carson Wentz. So
What do you think? Well,
No, I agree. I agree 100%. I think we look around the rest of the AFC, we hope the Browns have turned the corner. You know, when it comes down to it, teams you have to show me 2 or 3 years in a row.
yeah,
Because anybody can go out and catch fire. It was a COVID season, not to throw that out there really as an excuse, but anything can happen. You can catch fire in the NFL for one season, and then moving into that next season, all hell can break loose. The bottom can fall out, and Cleveland could win 4 or 5 games next season. So the Browns have to show that they've completely turned the corner. They've done a lot in free agency. If you look at the Ravens, we assume the Ravens have an MVP quarterback in Lamar Jackson. They got a Super Bowl winning head coach. They've got the pedigree. We expect them to be back. We expect the Steelers to be back. We expect the Patriots to be back with all the draft capital that they have. And, of course, the head coach and the pedigree they have. The Dolphins are going to be back. Buffalo. So it's going to be rough. It's going to be a very rough journey for the Colts. But I think what they're planning to do is just to hold on to that money after the draft.
yeah, I think
Because
that
after the draft is when things get funny. Teams have bad drafts. Teams have bad contracts. They have to start bailing on people. And that's when the Colts can step in. Because I believe they still have, about 40 mil in
yeah,
cap space?
they have a little over the 40 mil, but I think what they're doing is they're taking into consideration they're going to have to re-sign Quentin Nelson,
Oh,
Braden
yeah.
Smith, and
They
right.
got to pay
Darius
Quentin like a
Leonard.
left tackle.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
and Darius Leonard too. So it's not easy. It's not easy being a general manager in the NFL. But I'll tell you this: I think the Colts have the right one in place. I mean, look what he's been able to construct with that team. He has the right coaching staff. He works with his coaching staff. He works with his scouts, and man, they put together a good team. So that sums it up for Inside the Franchise. We want to thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned. Coming Thursday. Who's next? Well, so we don't miss a beat. Who's next?
Man, you know who's next. You staring at it on the screen more than likely.
So we have the Chicago Bears and the Washington football team. Make sure you guys stay
Woo!
tuned. This is going to be good.
Chicago Bears
Yes,
can't beat
sir.
that excitement.
Thank you. Adios.